Three former world champions came into the Olympic all-around final, but the gold ended up going to Oka Shinnosuke, the 20-year-old from Japan. Welcome to the Neutral Deductions Podcast, a podcast all about men's gymnastics. I'm Gabe Sanchez, and I'm joined by Christian Marsh. We are guest hosting the podcast, while your normal host, Kensley, is in Paris working with NBC. This is episode 44, where we'll be recapping the men's individual all-around of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games.
This is the Neutral Deductions Podcast, men's gymnastic news, coverage, and analysis. Hosted by Kinsley Beal.
As we previously mentioned, we're guest hosting for Kensley. Hopefully we can fill her shoes in her absence. Christian and I are here, so let's kick off the show. Wow, Christian, that was kind of like deja vu. It felt a little bit like the team finals, didn't it?
Yeah, no, I was blown away is one phrase. My heart stopped a couple times. I swear, I had a defibrillator on hand. It was a lot. It was a lot of fun though.
It was a lot of fun, but it was not without its highs and its lows. So let's tell you about the results. Just so you know, we have all the results from the competition so far on the website, neutraldeductions.com. So if you're ever wondering what the results are in more details, you can head over there to get them. But the results are, in first place, we have Oka Shinnosuke from Japan with an 86.832. In second, we have Zhang Boheng from China with an 86.599. In third place, Xiao Ruoteng of China with an 86.364. Fourth place was Ilia Kovtun of Ukraine with an 86.165. Fifth place, Fraser from Great Britain with an 85.532. Sixth place was Hashimoto Daiki of Japan with an 84.598. Seventh was Jarman of Great Britain with an 84.565. And eighth was Oleg Verniaiev of Ukraine with an 84.399. Those are the top 8. So as you may have figured out, neither of the U.S. athletes finished in that top group. So the highest placing U.S. athlete was Paul Judah. How did he do today?
Paul Judah had a pretty good day. I don't believe he had any falls, right? Which makes that, 6 routines in qualifications, 4 or 5 in team finals, and now 6 in all-around finals without any falls. So he was, Paul had himself a great time. His floor was a bit hoppy. So he had some errors there where he didn't quite get the connections he wanted. And he went for the stick a little hard on vault. But otherwise, hit after hit, Paul Judah showed up and he did his job. All-around finals was on his list. And in an interview, he's a great sport about it, saying, I had a great time. This was what I wanted. I didn't come in last, so that's even better. And so, Paul having fun is fun for the rest of us to watch. And, that's on top of the fact that his gymnastics is just beautiful. It's so crisp, tight, technical. It was, fantastic.
Absolutely. I do want to mention that he did have his best high bar routine of the Olympics so far. So he upgraded 0.3 from qualifications for a difficulty value of 5.4, and he got his highest score of a 13.766. So that was the highlight for him for today. Again, his routines felt pretty similar, but they were, I would say, maybe a little bit less polished, maybe just a little bit of fatigue setting in after, 3 full days of competition. So Paul finished in 14th place. Again, the highest placement from a U.S. athlete, and scored an 82.197. The other American in the field was Frederick Richard. He scored a 82.166, so just behind Judah, and he finished in 15th place. How did Richard do today?
Fred definitely had a rougher day. I can feel, he's done so much gymnastics. 6 routines and qualifications, another 5 from, team finals. And he's effectively doing all around for the 3rd time in 5 days. And so he started on pommel horse, and unfortunately he had 2 major breaks on horse. I guess one major, and I'll go one medium, because he, on his scissor handstand, He stepped down to the leather and then back, which is 3/10. The skill is worth 4, and then of course the 5 for the element group. So he retains credit. Overall, it ended up being worth it, but 3/10 is not something you want to give away, especially in such a tight all-around group. And then he, on one of his uh, flared skills, comes full off the horse. His hand slipped, and that's a full point off to start the meet, which is not where you want to be. And so he did well from there. I came back on rings, strong with a planche, 2 Malteses, vault. You did well on vault. Pillow bars was it was good. Didn't score quite as high as the other days, but he did manage to get that stick on his double front, which I love. He sticks his double front in a very interesting way. Um, he does it almost like he's doing a front tuck off of like a mini trampoline, and applies the exact same technique to an advanced dismount, which I love. And then high bar, Fred kind of balled out in the high bar in my opinion. I was expecting him to score just a little bit higher. Good the Yukin, caught all of his releases. And then he gets to floor, and floor he started out all right, going out on his first pass, that big double double half, but he reined it back in for the next couple passes. And unfortunately, by that dismount, it seemed like he was just a little bit out of gas and he put his hands down. So he ended up counting 2 falls for the day. And that's part of what put him down in 15th.
Yeah, I think you saw this from both of the US athletes of they were on this high from the day before from team finals, and they probably were filled with adrenaline, and to get back in the swing of things, it was just really difficult for both of them. I think both of their best competitions at the Olympics were during team finals, so it was good that they saved it for that, but they went out there and they did their best today. I do think Richard has some room to increase his difficulty to be truly competitive. You saw him almost tie with Judah with those 2 falls. So that would have put him at an 84 if he didn't have those falls. And again, the top athletes today were scoring in the 86 range. So again, he's up there, but I think he has some way to go if he truly, truly wants to be competitive in the all around. So moving on to 8th place, we have Oleg Verniaiev of Ukraine. He scored an 84.399. Because of the rotation order, he was actually leading a bit through the competition, but that's just because his lowest scoring routine, high bar, had not come up yet. Once he got to high bar, he scored a 12.7, and that brought him back down into 8th place. His P bars and his pommel horse looked great. There is still room for improvement, which is great to know because he's qualified into those 2 event finals. So it'll be great to see him there. I think, like we mentioned before, Oleg is kind of on a comeback tour after being removed from the sport for a little bit. So it's great to see him back in full form.
Yeah, no, I think it's easy to not think about him because he had been gone for a bit. But, I mean, today was, he got the highest score on Palm Horse of the day, the 14.833. And that is the first time he's dropped below a 15 so far on horse. Great horse swinger, obviously fantastic on parallel bars as the 2016 Olympic champion. It puts up another 15 today. So it's easy to not think about him until he is leading the field for 4 events, And he's just got a lot of cool gymnastics. I'm really glad we get to see it again.
Absolutely. In 7th place, we have Jake Jarman from Great Britain. He scored an 84.565. Jarman, great vault and floor, like always. On vault, he got a 15.166, the 3.5 that he's able to land on his feet each time. He did go out of bounds like he's done in the previous rounds, but still really impressive. And on floor, he got a 14.9. He nearly stuck his 3.5 dismount. It's so exciting to watch.
I mean, his floor set to start with had me out of my seat. I mean, that was beautiful. It takes like the smallest of 1/10 hops on his late triple double, just sticking all over the place. It was gorgeous. That score could have been a little higher, and I would have been happy.
He's been performing great on those 2 events, the whole competition. And I cannot wait to see him in the event finals. And I hope he has still some left in the tank because they've been amazing. So can't wait to see it. I was also really impressed with his pommel horse at this competition. He really improved that for a 14.06. I think if he can improve his rings and his high bar scores down the line, he'll be really dangerous in the all around.
Yeah, it really was rings that is his downfall. Only doing a 4.4 difficulty there is, that's tough. I think he could get away with keeping it low on high bar or rings, but both is uh, working against him. And I'd love to see him on, an Olympic world all around podium. So hopefully he's not super tall. So, in being a shorter athlete helps. Your arms are typically shorter as well, and having that shorter lever arm makes the strength elements a little bit better. But of course, everyone builds strength differently; they hold it differently. So I'm not undercutting him saying that he's not tried or anything like that. But especially since rings is an event where it's harder to fall off of, and he is a shorter athlete, hopefully he can put his nose to the grindstone a little bit there, get that difficulty up, and he can make some magic happen.
Yeah, and I think you can take kind of some notes from his teammate Max Whitlock, who kind of ended up being surprisingly competitive in the all around in his prime. We knew he had a great pommel horse set, but he was really able to put 6 routines together to again medal at the Rio Olympics, which was really impressive for something that most people just wrote him off as a pommel horse specialist. So excited to see what Jake Jarman can do in the future. So in sixth place, this was definitely a surprise. Sixth place was Hashimoto Daiki of Japan. Daiki is coming in as the reigning Olympic all-around champion. And he scored an 84.598, which was not good enough to land him on the podium or defend his gold from Tokyo. Like I said earlier, today kind of felt like a deja vu because he opened with a great floor set and we thought that he'd be able to carry it through the all around, but just like he did in team finals, he goes to pommel horse and he falls off.
Palm horse, of course, he had the fall in his scissor handstand and had to come back from that. And then on rings, he didn't get credit for something. His start value was lower. I'm not quite sure what. Fall, very nice triple full. I mean, you could, put that in a textbook. Everyone should do it that way. He's got a great triple full on faults. Parallel bars there were some struggles, especially on his dismount. He had big chest down and a big hop forward, which, are 2 3/10 deductions, minimum. And so, he scores a 14.433. You change that to a stick instead, he's closer at a 15, and that's where we know him to, you know, score around when he's doing well on parallel bars. High bar, he did a 6-1. We know he's capable of more, but air quotes played it safe because 6-1 is a huge high bar set. And while he did keep it on the bar, and after the mishap on pommel horse, he managed to stay on all of the events, without falling. It did not end up being enough at the end of the day. He comes in at an 84.598, and that is just not podium today.
Yeah, and it was a little bit disappointing that he was not able to be as sharp as we usually see him. On rings, parallel bars, and high bar, he had E scores in the low eights. And he also just had too many 1/10 errors that ended up adding up and resulting in this lower all around score. Even if you consider that fall that he took on pommel horse, it would have only gotten to an 85, and that would have been good for fifth. He wouldn't have been on the podium. So he needed to turn it up a gear today, and he just didn't. With that said, Hashimoto can still return to Japan as an Olympic champion. He did contribute a lot in the team finals. And like the Americans, I think his best day was during the team final. So even though he wasn't able to retain his gold, I think he still should be proud of what he did here in Paris. In fifth place was Great Britain's Joe Fraser. He scored an 85.532. We did the math, and he was only zero point 0.8 away from an all-around medal. So he was very, very close. Overall, he had a excellent day. He had very, very good routines on parallel bars, where he scored a 14.9, and on high bar, where he scored a 14.2.
Yeah, just that. I mean, he showed up, ready to play today. His parallel bars routine was great. That huge Tanaka he does, super cool skill. And his high bar routine, I thought was going to score a little higher. Maybe it was the angle that I was watching at, but he ends up with a 7.966 E score, and I thought it might have been a little better than that. I'm not going to lie. The high bar E scores have been rather tight, the entire Olympics so far. so it wasn't the most shocking, but I did think he did better than below an 8.0 e-score. He stuck the dismount and everything. It was a lot of fun to watch. It's a difficult routine, a 6.3 difficulty score, so just something interesting I noted more than anything.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Execution scores on high bar do feel pretty low. I think he could have gotten it done. I think he could have snuck his way onto the podium. Looking at his e-scores, he scored a 7.7 on pommel horse and an 8.3 execution on floor. Both of those were manageable to find that 8/10 that kept him off the podium. Again, he would have had to perform as excellent as he did on the other events, but it definitely was in his grasp. But again, this was his best all-around performance of the Olympics so far, and he should be really proud. So, good job to Fraser. In fourth place was Ilia Kovtun of Ukraine, scoring an 86.165. Again, that means he was 0.2 away from a bronze. And obviously, when all around comes down to just 0.2, there's going to be some sort of controversy of whether he was awarded the correct execution scores throughout his competition. He had an amazing floor routine, the second highest of the day, scoring a 14.7. And the highlight for his meet was a 15.4 on parallel bars. Talk us through his parallel bars.
His parallel bars is so nice. I texted my teammates. I was actually speechless after watching that set. It is so insanely difficult at a 6.7. That's one of the highest start values in the world, let alone this competition. And he's capable of up to a 7.0. And he just does it with, just exquisite execution as well. 8.7 e-score for a 15.4. Sticks the blind landing dismount as he does a double front. Peach to one bar, Healy down, Diamondov in a quarter. He does it all. Is so many intricate skills, so difficult. And he makes it look like he's just playing around up there. I loved it. It was truly a treat to watch, and I'm so glad we get to watch him do it one more time in P-Bar finals.
I agree that the parallel bars final is going to be great. The lowest scoring routine that Kovtun had was on rings. With a 5.3 difficulty, he only scored an 8.0 execution, resulting in a 13.3. Really disappointing that he wasn't able to get that score higher, especially because rings, you can usually get a higher E score on that. So that's his weakness, and I kind of feel like that's what kept him off the podium. So really close, really hard to be in that fourth place position because he did have a great meet today, but his consistency is really impressive. He's made the all-around podium twice this quad, so he should be really proud of what he did today.
Neutral Deductions recently launched this year and is entirely funded by listener contributions. If you'd like to support the show and help promote men's gymnastics, kindly consider making a donation through the PayPal link provided in the show notes. All donations are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
In third place, winning the bronze medal, we have Xiao Ruoteng of China with an 86.364. He's made multiple Chinese world teams, and it's great to see him here on the Olympic team. He really did have a great day today. He improved on all of his events.
He showed up ready to give some world champions a run for their money. His world champion win as one of the three at this meet was back in 2017. And he did not let that. He acted like no time had passed, essentially. He competed like he was top of the world today, and as we saw, he just about was.
One of the biggest improvements came right out the back on floor. He scored a 13.6 in qualifications, but in the all-around final, he got a 14.3. I love how vertical he is on all of his landings, on his connection passes. He doesn't have any majorly crazy skills, but on the doubles and the fulls that he connects, he lands straight up, and they're really beautiful to see. He has great twisting form. They're perfect. Like we mentioned, pommel and still rings was basically the exact same routines as qualifications, just a few tenths higher or lower.
At the risk of saying something slightly controversial, he has an 8.566 E score on high bar. And, it was tough to buy an E score above an 8.5 on high bar so far. And so I was a little surprised when that flashed, especially because, as we mentioned, he beat Ilia by about 2 tenths. And so when I saw that 8.566, instead of what had been more common between an 8.0 and an 8.3, I was a little surprised. And then I saw the scores update and put him ahead of Ilia, and that surprised me just a little bit further. Not saying he didn't earn it, of course. It was a great routine. Obviously that's how he ended up with that E score. But I was a tad surprised, just relative to the rest of the competition field, that his E score ended up where it was, and resultingly put him on the podium.
Yeah, going back to his high bar, he did really improve it from qualifications. It was half a point higher than he did. He scored a 14.3. So I know we can nitpick the tenths here and there, but it was still really impressive how much he improved. So overall, his all-around score from qualifications to finals was 1.5 higher today. So really great showing from him. All of the medal winners today were in the 86s, and he truly was not far away from his competitors. Moving on to the silver medal, we have Zhang Boheng of China with an 86.599. Zhang was the world champion back in 2021, and he was controversially left off of the Tokyo Olympic team even after being the top all-arounder in the lead up to naming that Olympic team. How did he do in his very first Olympic all-around final?
It started rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. He does that 3.5 half connection on the floor, back 3.5 twist to a front tuck half, and he under twisted the 3.5, and consequently did tuck half that ended up in almost a tripod as he landed like almost quite literally on his head directly. So that was, of course, an unfortunate start, being first event and all.
It was unfortunate to see him with that fall and that score in the 13s. And when he went to pommel horse, I don't know if he was planning this before the fall or if it was a result of the fall he had, but he did compete a routine that was lower in difficulty than in qualification. So in qualifications, he competed a routine with a 6.0 difficulty, but in the all-around final today, he only competed a 5.7. He still got a decent score, but I think that did show that it was he wanted to be a little bit conservative just after that fall, knowing that he still had a chance for a medal, but he did have to put 5 really good routines together, and he couldn't risk another fall.
Yeah, you can't tell where the other athletes are going to fall, but he broke 88 day one, and no one else had. So he probably knew that he could be on podium with a fall, and at that point started making, strategic decisions to just stay on and hit, because he had that buffer due to both his execution and his difficulty generally across the rest of the events.
So after getting more confidence on that pommel horse routine with a little bit of lower difficulty, he was on a roll. He started matching his routines from qualifications, from team finals. He got a 14.6 on rings, then a 14.5 on vault, and a 15.3, really impressive on parallel bars.
And he's so strong on rings. I love seeing an all-arounder who's strong on rings, in my own biased opinion, as someone who was that. But it truly showing that mastery over the strength events is just so impressive, and it's a great place to be so strong because rings is typically tough to fall off of.
He really made up for that fall on floor, and he was in a really good position to challenge for the gold. All he had was high bar. And remember, he has the highest score on high bar in this competition so far, the only athlete to score over 15 so far, which he got in qualifications. How did that high bar set go?
I stopped breathing during it 3 separate times. Oh my goodness, he was up there. He was swinging for sure. Um, Most notably, and I'm pretty sure I hold the entire planet gasp as he comes out of his German giants. He's catching all of these releases to his fingertips, really keeping us on the edge of our seats. He comes out of his German giants, for which you don't have to do to handstand, by the way. That as you exit from within the bar on your German giant sequence, there is no angle deduction. But he flares it up the handstand and then past the handstand into a bridge backwards like a banana. I swear he could have kicked himself in his own head. And then, by the grace of all that is good in the world, he pulls it back to the right side of the bar and continues. And then, he puts the dismount to his feet, takes a 3/10 step backwards. But oh my goodness gracious, was that routine a roller coaster, knowing he had to score, around a 14.8 and change to beat Oka. And being, pretty much the only athlete able to do so, uh, it was a lot.
And even after he landed, I wasn't sure how the score was going to go because in team finals, he didn't do a perfectly clean routine. It still had plenty of errors, and it did score a 14.8. So, not taking notes during the routine, I still thought there was a possibility that he would get a high enough score to take the top spot. The score does come up and it is a 14.633. So that gave him a gap of 0.233 between him and the eventual gold medalist. So a little bit disappointing for him, knowing that if he did not have that fall on floor, he probably would have been Olympic champion. The final score that he received was a 86.599 compared to his qualification scores, which is an 88.597. So he recorded about 2 points lower today than he did in the qualifying competition. So kind of like what happened to China in the team finals, where they had to just meet or get close to what their qualification scores were. Zhang was not able to match his qualification performance. And because of that, he got second place.
He's one of the best all-arounders in the world. He's broken 89 this quad, which is unreal. He's the only athlete to do so. That's the highest score of the quad. And so for him to show up to the Olympics and be able to do gymnastics was fantastic to watch. I was really happy we got to see him compete. He seemed really happy, albeit nervous to be there, and who wouldn't be? And, it is nothing to turn your nose up at, that the fact that he was silver at the Olympics with a fall. And it's not like, he put his hands down like 5/10 maybe. He like literally fell on his head and was still the second best gymnast in the world today. And so that is tremendous. And I'm just happy I got to watch it.
Yeah, even the placement aside, he really showed that he is a exceptional gymnast, and he was really entertaining to watch. Moving on to the Olympic champion, the gold medalist from Japan, Oka Shinnosuke, recording a 86.832. What I was most surprised about his competition today was it was nearly identical from qualifications. Talk about consistency. His scores only deviated for about 1 to 2 tenths per routine. It was incredible how copy paste his competition was today, and that's really impressive. What stood out to you about Oka's performance today?
More than anything, he just looked happy to be there. He looked unburdened. He saluted with a smile and nice hair 6 times and hit 6 sets. It was a treat to watch. It looked like of course I wasn't inside his head. I can't tell you what he was thinking, but he looked like he was having fun. It was awesome. He just really did his job. Like he did not let the pressure get to him. And so to watch someone do as well as he did and have as much fun while doing it was, yeah, just the pleasure of a lifetime. And good for him, uh, being as young as he is, one of the youngest Olympic champions ever, and to compete with such elegance, maturity, and style.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. So, kind of breaking down his competition, he started off on floor, really great set. He opened with this beautiful stretch laid out, double layout, full in, really clean. His third pass was a double double. He stuck it cold, beautiful. He's first reserve on floor right now. If he did the routine that he did today, he would have made the event final. So hopefully we can see him in some floor event finals in the future. And then another highlight routine was his high bar. One of the skills I love from him is just his layout to Kachev's. He gets a ton of height. He has great form in the air, perfectly stretched, no banana like you see in a lot of guys when they do Tkachev. It's just this perfectly straight line. He catches it. He has a great rhythm and a swing. He's just really easy and exciting to watch.
I just look forward to seeing more of him. I was not especially familiar with this athlete, and I cannot get enough of him now. He is he was great. Seems to have a good personality, beautiful gymnastics, and so no, I'm already impatiently waiting until I can see him do gymnastics again.
Yeah, so this was his first major team. He has made Asian championship teams for Japan, but he has never made a world championship team. So it was a treat for everyone to see him compete at these Olympics. And he was just, again, Mr. Consistency today. In qualifications, he got an 86.865. Today, he got an 86.832. So not even a tenth difference, which is kind of insane to think about that he didn't let the nerves get to him. He was able to perform exactly as he did 2 days in a row. And the way the competition went, that was good enough for gold. So congrats to him. So great competition from the top guys. It really did come down to the final routines. That high bar rotation was really exciting, and it is going to be exciting to see most of those guys later on in the week in the event final.
Neutral Deductions is your exclusive gymnastics news platform focused entirely on men's gymnastics. To show your support, please subscribe to Neutral Deductions' YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram.
Moving on to the rest of the competition, were there any other standouts or routines that you saw today?
Yeah, as a great little Easter egg, I caught that Carlos Yulo from the Philippines did a Rise Guang 2 on vault. That is a piked double front with a half out on the second twist, pardon me, second flip. And that is an extremely difficult vault. Only two other athletes, I believe, did it in this competition between Adam Asil of Turkey and Wataru Tanigawa of Japan. Very, very difficult. And we hadn't seen that yet from Carlos this competition. So that's probably a look forward to vault finals. He's probably testing it out, and that'll be exciting if he's able to make that upgrade and put it in for finals. Um, there was also Felix Dolce, who snapped his high bar grip, if anyone caught that, which was terrifying. And a lesser known rule that when you break your grip, you actually are allowed a second attempt at the routine. So he got his second chance. Unfortunately, he ultimately had a miss, but that was just, I saw a lot of questions about that. What happens when your grip breaks? Do you get to go again? The answer is yes, but it's not like the fatigue from the first routine disappears. So instead of, it's awesome you got that second routine, but it's really like you just did two routines back to back.
Yeah, and I think Gymnastics Canada posted a photo of him right after he got up. He did definitely ragdoll off the bar. Glad he was okay, but it looked like he also ripped his hand in the process. So his hands could have been in quite some pain fighting through that high bar routine again. So glad he's okay. Congrats to him for making the all around final again, and it'll be great to see him in more all around finals in the future.
I was just going to mention that Felix Dolce posted a picture of his hands on Instagram. They are torn up like road pizza. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can very well check it out.
Gross. Uh, One athlete who really surprised me with their placement was Hungary's Christopher Mazuros. Really solid comp. He ended up placing 9th. So congrats to him. So the last thing I want to mention is the uniforms that Team Ukraine was wearing. Their kit, it had on the left side, it looked like it was kind of this artistic stylized rubble, and on the right side was a Ukrainian flag emerging from that rubble. Obviously, this is homage to the ongoing war in their country, and it really shows how these athletes have to compete with that in the back of their mind at all times. For those of you who remember or might not know this, Kovtun wore a shirt during podium training at the 2022 Worlds that said "Stop War," and he was reprimanded for wearing that shirt. Ukraine has performed very well at the Olympics so far, and they continue to show that they are representing their country through this terrible time. Ukraine still has some great opportunities in the future for some medals in the event finals, specifically on P-bars and vault. So we will see them there later on in the week. So the next competition will be the floor and the pommel horse final on August 3rd, followed by the rings and the vault final on August 4th. And the final day of Olympic competition will be on August 5th with the parallel bars and the high bar finals. If you would, please rate and review us on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps others find Neutral Deductions and learn more about men's gymnastics. If you would like to help us bring more live men's gymnastics coverage, please consider donating. A massive thanks to all of you who have donated so far this season. We are entirely listener supported, and even $10 makes a huge difference. The PayPal link is in every show note and at the bottom of every article on neutraldeductions.com. You can donate via PayPal or Stripe. If you have any questions, comments, or insider tips, you can email us at neutraldeductions@gmail.com. So that is it for Christian and I guest hosting, but Kensley will be back in your feed with a special guest. Actually, let's just tell you the secret. Kensley will be back with special guest Sam Oldham to recap the event finals of the Olympics. So that should be a really exciting episode. So, of course, like we mentioned, Kensley, that will be at the end of Olympics once Kensley's contract is over, but I'm sure she will be able to share some insider details and kind of behind the scenes of what happened in the arena in Paris. So that should be a very exciting episode to listen to. Thank you all for taking your time listening to our recap, and we'll see you next time.